Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick podcast to go over what to expect for the upcoming rookie and free agent draft. And then I was going to go through the process of realigning the divisions. I'm at the end of this, I'll do a spinning wheel and then randomize who's going into what division. So just so that you see that everything is kind of on the up and up. I'll do it in real time during this podcast. So for the rookie free agent draft coming up, we're going to start it on Sunday, May 8th, which is a week after the actual NFL draft concludes. And that's going to start at noon Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be 10 rounds and it's going to be 243 total picks. So 24 teams times 10, plus we have the three comp picks based on finishes in the toilet bowl last season. This draft's going to include all rookies and all free agents listed in the My Fantasy League pool of players. It'll be a 6-hour time limit per pick, and the clock is going to be paused between midnight and 8 a.m. So I think that's pretty generous time limit. So hopefully we don't have any timeouts. But in the event that there is a timeout, you're going to get whatever the highest rated player on MFL's ADP is. And as you know from some past drafts, that runs out pretty quickly and you might start ending up with players that you don't want. So just do the best you can to either be available or set pre-drafts if you know you're not going to be available and your pick's coming up, because I am not going to make changes if you time out. The only reason I'll make changes is if you didn't end up with the highest ADP on a timeout, or if you did set up your pre-draft picks and for some reason there was an error in the software. If you can send me a screenshot to show me proof that the pick was incorrect, I'll go in and fix that for you, but I'm not going to change it just because you missed your pick. Right now, the off-season roster is at 85 players. I think everyone is relatively below that, but some of you might have to make some cuts to make room for draft picks if you have a lot of draft picks, or if you had a lot of players that were on IR. And then weekly blind bid waivers are going to start the week after this draft concludes. So more information to come on that. Now for the divisional realignment, as I mentioned before, the whole theme of this league is defunct teams and defunct leagues. So a lot of times teams would shift around, teams would no longer exist, new teams would come around, leagues would fold altogether. So what I wanted to do was kind of have that fun little twist in this league. What we're going to do is all the playoff teams from last year are going to stay in their division. So the 6 division winners and the 2 wildcard teams are staying put. Those are already locked in. The other 16 teams that didn't make the playoffs are going to be randomly assigned to another division. I'm going to do a spinning wheel, as I mentioned after, which is going to be randomized. You might even end up in the opposite conference, or if it just so happened that you ended up in your same division that you were last year, that could be a possibility too, because it's totally random. We're going to do this every off season. And like I said, this is to kind of simulate the volatile nature of these leagues. I think it's going to add a fun element to it to add some variety and more rivalries between some of these teams. It lets you have like a King of the Hill style, excuse me, King of the Hill style situation where the division leaders from last year can defend their title. And we'll see if some of these other teams that were fringe playoff teams can come in and knock them off their throne. I also wanted to make sure that whatever division you ended up in the beginning didn't kind of doom you moving forward. If all 4 teams are really good, you're not stuck. You have an opportunity to eventually make the playoffs once we shake these things up. So just to give you a little peek behind the curtain as far as how I did the schedule last year and how it's going to be this year, we have 17 matchups, and obviously there's only 14 regular season weeks. So as you saw last year, there's 3 doubleheaders, weeks 1, 2, and 3. Each team plays their division rivals twice, so that's 6 games. Each team will also play 2 other entire divisions, and each division has 4 teams, so that's a total of 8 more games. So if you're counting along, that's 14 games so far. The remaining 3 games are going to be against the other 3 divisions that you didn't play against. The way we determine these matchups is going to be by the victory points from last season. So for example, all the division winners are going to play the division winners from last year because it was the highest victory points. And then so on after that. The second highest victory points in that division based off of last year's victory points will play the second highest in those 3 divisions that weren't played, and so on. So I have this set up here. I'm going to switch between the website and this PowerPoint, and I'm going to swap in the teams as we're going through just to keep track so you can visually see how the divisions are filling up. So as you can see, I populated this picker wheel with the 16 teams that did not make the playoffs. These are the teams that are going to be randomly placed in a different division. When I click spin, it's going to go through. Once it chooses that team, I can remove that team from the list here so that it's not picked a second time. And then I would go back to my list here and populate it just so that we can keep track as we're going. So without further ado, let's fill up the AFC East first. So the first team is the Pittsburgh Maulers that are going into the AFC East. Third team in the AFC East is the Cleveland Crush. Okay, and then to round out that AFC East division, we have the Baltimore Stallions. Okay, let's go to the NFC East now. We have the Los Angeles Dons. Third team in the NFC East, the Canton Bulldogs. And then the last team to round out the NFC East will be the San Antonio Gunslingers. Okay, onto the AFC Central. We have the Barcelona Dragons. Third team in the AFC Central. The Pottsville Maroons. And then rounding out the AFC Central, the Miami Hooters. All right, let's go to the NFC Central. Portland Thunder. A third team in the NFC Central. Rochester Brigade. And then the final team in the NFC Central. The Atlantic City Blackjacks. All right, so these last two divisions, the AFC West and the NFC West, actually had our two wildcard teams. So in both of these divisions, we're only going to have two additional teams added. So the final four teams, we'll start with the AFC West. The Houston Oilers. All right, and then the final team in the AFC West. The other two teams will end up being in the NFC West. The Richmond Rebels. So as I mentioned, the last two teams in the NFC West are going to be the Duluth Eskimos. That's our new team that replaced the New York Yankees, and then the Shreveport Steamer. Okay, and there you have it. So these are the new divisions that we're going to have in the 2022 season. I'll let people have the element of surprise, so I won't make these changes for a couple days. I'll let people watch this draft, or I'm sorry, I'll let people watch this podcast so that they can kind of be hyped up and see where everything falls. And then I can make these edits to the divisions within MFL later this week. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to the season and the start of the draft. More information to come and more podcasts to come. So stay tuned. Hope everyone has a good rest of the weekend. Thanks.